Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm gonna show you another overpowered warrior build that does almost the highest damage in the game while being incredibly tanky. And also your attack speed is insanely fast, but you do need to die a lot. I'll talk about this in a bit. As you can see here, my Templar always one-shots a whole group of mobs, and the damage is just crazy. As a Reaver, you're also unstoppable by shredding through everything. This build also works really well at the early game. As you level up, it gets stronger and stronger. This build has the Reaver and the Templar version, as well as the early game and the end game version. So get yourself comfortable and a cup of tea. Let's get started. First off, let me address the core of this build, which is almost based on this spell, the Revival. If you switch to the Desperation upgrade, you not only revive your allies, also give them a huge damage and attack speed boost, but they'll die after 10 seconds. In order to keep this spell rolling, you need as many mages as you can. Thus we have 3. That's the most you can have if you're playing the warrior yourself. You can start making this build as early as level 12. At this point, your mages are gonna need a barrier, which is incredibly important in the early game. If you play on the nightmare difficulty with all the trials turned on, the mobs can pretty much end your whole team in a few hits. Then take the elegant defense, which shortens your barrier cooldown by 4 seconds each time you have a barrier expire. With 3 mages spamming the barrier, the survivability is greatly increased, and letting them stay alive is one of the most important things in this build. Next, grab the Guardian Spirit, which provides you an extra barrier after you take the final blow. At least this keeps your mages alive. Then the Mind Blast. Guess we don't have much choices here, but leave the upgrade alone, cause at level 12, you barely have enough ability points to carry out the spell. Finally, the Revival and the upgrade. Then we're moving on a Storm ability tree. Take the Chain Lightning and ignore the upgrade. We're here for the Gathering Storm. With this passive ability, you're decreasing your spell cooldown by 0.5 seconds with each hit of your basic attack. It helps a little bit with the cooldown of the Revival. In fact, at this point, we don't even need the mages to cast any spell other than the barrier and the Revival, as long as they revive you every time you go down. Then we need the Ice Armor in this spell tree, which is almost at the bottom. You need to go through the Winter's Grasp, which are also not very likely to use at this point. The Winter Stillness that helps a little bit with your mana recovery when you're standing still. The Ice Armor is the perfect spell for this spell. Not only it puts ice mines in front of you that freeze the mobs who try to attack you, but also activates the Ice Armor that reduces all damage you take by 50%. 13 ability points in total. That's all you need. I suggest only using the Barrier, Revival, and the Ice Armor, and disable all other spells in case they draw too much attention. Of course, using a normal staff instead of the melee one, as the Gathering Storm can only be triggered by the normal staff. As for the warrior, it's much simpler. You can't use any specialization abilities just yet for the lack of ability points. We only take the offensive abilities here, the Mighty Blow and the Easy Target, cause the damage bonus is the only thing we consider in this build, and anything that related to defense, just get rid of it. Then the Shoebreaker, that adds a Sunder effect to your target every time you land a critical hit. The Whirlwind is super important in this build, a solid, sustainable AoE ability that deals a ton of damage and combo when you're in the Rampage mode. On the left hand side, we have the Block and Slash, which we are not gonna use at this point. The Flow of Battle, also a must-have ability for warriors. Then the Pommel Strike, very powerful single target damage ability, and use whatever upgrade you want, cause none of them provides damage bonus. Then take the Grappling Chain from the Battle Master tree and use the upgrade of the chains for the day. This is extremely helpful when the archers are targeting your mages. You don't want that to happen. Just protect your mages at all costs in the combat, or simply cast it as an opener. Next up, we are taking the Warcry and the Charging Bow. One of the best aspects about this build is you can use the crappiest gear you have, as well as you won't have any fancy pieces right now. The best thing you can get at this point is the Great Axe of the Dragon Hunter schematic from the Black Emporium. Put in some irons and craft yourself a decent weapon if you need to, which should be enough for this point. And for the armor, I just grabbed the crappiest one from the DLC pack, and don't forget the Enhanced Bell of Urgency. You're good to go. When in the combat, the first thing you need to do is get yourself killed. Pretty easy, right? Then the mages will do their jobs. If you go down for the first time, the mages might cast the Revival on you all at the same time, which causes the effect to triple. When this happens, it's pretty crazy. Look at the damage and the attack speed. It's not fast forward, trust me. Once your rampage expires, the revival might not be able to catch up, but you can always switch to one of the mages and control them manually. And don't worry, once the cooldown is reset, they're gonna revive you right away. After that, this kind of goes into a circle, which they take their turns to revive you every time you go down. And don't forget it's just in the early game, and will get much more powerful as you progress. Speaking of which, let's talk about the endgame build. And now we have much more flexibility. For Reavers, you acquire a few passive abilities to boost your damage, which is fantastic. The further, you got a 30% damage bonus for 5 seconds when an enemy dies, and this affects stacks. The Blood Frenzy, 5% damage bonus for each 10% missing health, which is the perfect ability for this build. Then the Scenting Blood, I tend to leave the Terrifying Fury alone, thus this could get really messy when it procs, causing the foes to start rambling around. Later down in this tree, we're grabbing the Dragon Range, also a very sweet ability for this build, and you can Dragon Range yourself to death, making the job much easier for the mages. Just don't overuse it when you're in a rampage. The rest of the abilities are pretty much like before. Grab a few more to boost your damage if you need to, such as the Levy, Horn of Valor, or even the Combat Roll. And we also have access to top tier gears. For two-handed weapons, I'm using the crafted version of Chromatic Greatsword, and the Dragon's Tooth for Masterwork to boost its base damage even more. And of course the medium Prowler armor for the extra 41 cutting points, and the tier 3 Berserker Masterwork for another 30% damage bonus, but also taking 300% more damage from all sources, but it doesn't matter in this build. And the Helmet of Crystal Victor. What is this word? Okay, since I'm playing the Canori, guess this is the only choice for me. If you play the non-Canori Inquisitor, the Mask of Grand Duchess is your best choice. As for amulets, just use whatever you like. The Enhanced Bell of Urgency is the only bell for this game, no matter what class you play. And I suggest a Super Ring of Critical Chance or Critical Damage. For the most part, I'll boost my overall crit chance to roughly 70% if I'm using the Chromatic Greatsword, then dump the rest resources into crit damage. The mages at this point are also much stronger. You can grab the Static Cage for more CC and combos. Also, the specialization spells like the Walking Bomb and Pull Up the Abyss to make the fight a lot easier. The passive ability, Clean Burn, is the final piece for this spell. Whether they basic attack or spell cast, the cooldown is gradually decreasing. I'll help them equip the Staff of the Encore, as these buffs are very useful for the squad. And the armors don't matter, just use whatever you see fit. The only thing that matters is the amulet. I'll use the cooldown amulets to reduce the spell cooldown even more. When in the fight, you can just cast Dragon Range to kill yourself, and the mages will do their job pretty well. Anytime you go down, you get back up right away. And sometimes when they cast the revival at the same time, this effect even stacks. You're dealing like 4k to 5k basic attack damage if it crits, and the Chromatic Greatsword doubles the damage. When the mobs are affected by the Static Cage or the pole, you can just simply Whirlwind and destroy them in a few seconds. The only thing you need to worry about is the mages. You need to keep the mobs away from them. You can't even let the health bar drop to 1, or they'll be affected by the revival. This could make you game over. And I also got a Templar version for you guys. Compared to the Reaver, I changed the weapon to the Great Axe of the Dragon Hunter, for it can stack more crit damage. As a Templar, your goal is to one-shot every mob around you as possible with your combo. To amplify that damage, I put in the Explosion on Kill Masterwork, which scales to the damage of your killing blow. Say if your combo deals 50k damage and the mobs die, then the explosion damage also deals at least another 30k damage, which is definitely possible with this spell. I thought about using the Walking Bomb Masterwork. It's a bit random and really depends on your luck. Furthermore, it has a cooldown. As for the skills, you know what to use if you play the Templar. The Spell Purge, the Wrath of Heaven, and the Blessed Blade. Then you're good to go. But for the mages though, you better disable all their detonation spells, such as Dispel, Mind Blast, and the Stone Fist, in case they steal your combos. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video.